I think there's a lot more goals and there's going to be a lot more shocking results, definitely. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another week of TFW, the footballing show dominated by your opinions. So, Matt is away this week, so it's just me. I'll be dissecting a week of football. So, we'll be talking about our hot topics, including if Bale should be at Spurs and that awful Van Dijk injury. Also, we will be chatting all things Everton with the Blue Room's Dave Downie, plus my weekly forecast. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so first up, the first opinion is from Einmal FC Bimmer FCB, if I've said that correctly. So, my opinion, this Premier League season has the potential to be one of the best and most attractive Premier League seasons in the last 10 to 20 years. Wow, I mean, yeah, only 5 rounds played, but I have a brilliant feeling. I get what you mean about the brilliant feeling, but when I think about the last 20 years of Premier League football, there have been some amazing seasons, but I do think this is going to shape up to be a very interesting one. I mean, you think about some of the results that we've had. I mean, I don't really like talking about it, but that Spurs 6-1 win, Villa's win, Leicester beating City. There's already been so many amazing goals and so many amazing results. And I think it's been really good that this season you've seen so many teams make that step up. Everton, a prime example. You know, teams that have bought really well and they've made that step up to be competing with the likes of Liverpool and City. So yeah, I guess I can agree to an extent that I think it's going to be super exciting. I think there's a lot more goals and there's going to be a lot more shocking results, definitely. So next question is from Tokumbo Oshinoa. Who are going to be the centre-backs for Liverpool now that Van Dijk is injured? Will it be Matip who steps up into the position, or will Fabinho play as a makeshift centre-back like how Fernandinho did for Man City when Laporte was injured? Speaking of City, do you think that they can win the league now that Liverpool are in the same position that they were in last season? Keep up the great videos. I mean, that injury was awful. How Pickford stayed on the pitch. I will probably be speaking to Dave about that. I mean, it's crazy. I think that Gomez and Matip, they do have their moments where they have their own injury issues. So I think Fabinho's got to step in. I mean, the timing couldn't be worse. They do probably need a centre-back. They're never going to find someone that can replace Van Dijk for this season, but they probably needed to buy somebody anyway. So I guess we'll have to see. Maybe in January they will buy someone, but in the meantime, Fabinho 100% will be stepping in. I think that if they manage to play more of like a 4-2-3-1, they have got the attacking means. They have got Henderson, they have got Wijnaldum in midfield. Obviously, Salah, Mane, Diego Jota as well. So I think they'll be okay. I think they've got enough in attack for Fabinho to go into that centre-back role. So yeah, regarding City winning the Premier League, I think they've got their own issues. Obviously, Jesus is injured. Aguero, they are just relying on him up front. I was surprised they didn't end up getting a striker. I think if Aguero gets injured again, which could happen, let's face it, they might struggle themselves. So I don't think you can put it on anybody yet as to who's going to win. I think we'll just have to wait and see. Okay, so next up, this is from Shivan Mishra. One thing I have learnt from Barca's 1-0 loss to Getafe is that Koeman has improved the team, but Barca are mentally fragile. Plus, Dest will be a superstar. He had a good game. I think Pedri and Trincao will be the future Barca team. I mean, I think any team would be a little bit fragile after that Bayern game, and then your number one player decides that he wants to leave and it all kicks off, and then you lose Suarez as well. It doesn't surprise me that they're a little bit fragile. I think what we saw in that game, although they did lose, Koeman does seem to be putting a lot of players on the pitch, giving them opportunities. Obviously, we saw Dembele on the pitch, which is really great to see. And you can't really ask for much more from him. He's just doing his best to figure out what works and what doesn't. I think with Trincao, obviously, I know I got a lot of hate saying that he might not be the best player. It remains to be seen, but he's obviously a talent. Of course he is. I think he definitely could be the future, along with Pedri. I think it's going to be really exciting. I think El Clasico will be a massive test for Barcelona, and obviously their return to the Champions League. Like I say, they're going to be fragile, of course, but, you know, it's Barcelona. Anything could end up happening. Okay, next up, we have got an opinion from Pipori Burrito. Do love a burrito. So, in my opinion, Chelsea have got the quality in the attack and midfield which is required for the Champions League. But this is a big one. Their defence and goalie ain't even at Europa League level. There you go. And they lack leadership on the field. I also think that if they don't make it into the top 4 and far in the Champions League, Frank Lampard will get sacked. Considering the big money they've spent and bad results if they happen. But in my opinion, the only thing that you can blame Frank for would be if they don't succeed, if he didn't buy a world-class defender and a goalie during the summer. But considering the attackers he bought, you can't really complain. By the way, love your daily work, a football lover from Finland. Thank you very much. That was a lot to unpack. Chelsea have 100% got quality in attack and midfield. I think that we all hoped that the arrival of Thiago Silva would kind of calm things in defence, but I mean, you saw it when they let those 3 goals in. Not all of them Kepa's fault. I think Zuma has to take a lot of the blame. Him and Christensen don't seem as solid as they need to be, and like I say, Thiago Silva hasn't really brought much stability. Frank Lampard, if they don't make top 4, I would be very surprised if they didn't make top 4. If they didn't manage to get out of the group stage of the Champions League, of course his job would come into question, and rightly so. Like you say, the amount of money that he has spent. But yeah, I think it all depends as well, what else Lampard does. Does he tactically manage to mess things up, or does he tactically manage to get things right? Are the players that he's bought, are they going to gel correctly? There's loads of other things that can come into play here as to if Lampard will be a success or not. Not just because, he didn't buy a defender that we want, he didn't buy the right goalkeeper or whatever. There's loads of stuff that's going to come into play. But I think with Chelsea, they are going to struggle with the defence and the goalkeeper. That's something that they may need to revisit in January. But I think that the signings that he's made, they're absolutely amazing. And I think that once they manage to get to grips with each other and they manage to gel, you've already seen it with Werner getting a goal. I think they'll be fine. I don't think Lampard's going anywhere anytime soon. And our final question is from Ryan Yowell. Tottenham made a mistake signing Bale. I hope Matt is not watching this. For one, he's too selfish, biased based off his take on and miss in the game yesterday. And 2, he's taking playing time away from Lucas and Bergwijn, who's 8 years Bale's junior. Spurs would have held on to the lead if they had kept Bergwijn on the pitch. Now, you can't predict what would have happened. It doesn't look great for Bale that he comes on and then everything just turns into a hot mess for Spurs. But you can't just blame it on that. Maybe if Bergwijn would have stayed on the pitch, they would have won. Who knows? But you know what? That's gone now. We can't change it. Bale, at the end of the day, he's still an amazing player. I know that things with Real Madrid haven't gone great, but not necessarily last season, but I think the season before, he did get 14 goals. He is somebody with a wealth of experience that Spurs can certainly rely on. He loves the club. Seeing him, Son and Kane team up will certainly be exciting, and they could be one of the best front threes in the league. You've got to give him some time as well. He's had injuries, he's not been playing enough really. So definitely give Bale a little bit of time. Regarding Lucas and Bergwijn, I think that they wouldn't have got Bale if they didn't need some more reinforcements. Bale is not going to play every single game at 90 minutes. There's still going to be a lot of playing time for everybody. Bergwijn, like you say, he's like 23. He's still got a lot of years. We don't know how long Bale will be at Spurs. We don't know how many more years he can keep playing with some of his injuries. So Bergwijn, I don't think we need to worry about him because, like I say, he's young. He's still going to get plenty of playing time. There's still a lot of competitions for Spurs to be in, etc. So yeah, I wouldn't really worry too much. I don't think that they've made a mistake whatsoever. I think that the morale that Bale can bring, the way that he will lift the fans, his arrival and everything, I think is invaluable. I think him being back at the club is massive. His relationship with Mourinho, etc. So I don't think they've made a mistake, and he's only come off the bench. We need to give him a minute to find his feet, and I think that we'll probably be saying that they definitely did not make a mistake. But yes, those are all of our questions, opinions. Thank you so much to everybody who gave us their opinions, but we are now going to move on, especially after that Merseyside derby and Everton's start to the season. There have been so many questions and opinions about them, so I caught up with the Blue Room podcast host, Dave Downie, and we had a little chat. Okay, Dave, so first question or opinion is from Dude, who has said, as an Everton fan, Did you think Mane was offside in the Henderson goal? Also, did you think Pickford deserves a red card when he injured Van Dijk? I'm throwing you in at the deep end here.
The offside, I think, is a little bit of a ridiculous decision, simply because it took so long to come to a conclusion when you're resorting to drawing lines. And I think we've seen it in other games in last season, certainly, where clubs and players have had to sit there and wait for these decisions to come through. The longer it takes, I think, the more that it should favour the attacking side. There's nothing conclusive there anyway, even when you look at the screen. I don't think Mane's shoulder, I think they've said it is any further towards Everton's goal than the back of Angelina, or I think it's Ben Godfrey as well, who's also in the line. And I've always been of the opinion, and this goes much against what most Evertonians would say, I guess, but I've been of the opinion that you should always give the striker the benefit of the doubt, because we know it's quite difficult to score a goal. So I don't think it was offside, and even if it was, you're looking at ridiculous pixels on screens and drawing lines. I think there's a little bit. It's a little bit ludicrous the way they've gone about how they judge these things these days. So I don't think it was offside. In terms of Pickford, yeah, it was absolutely a red card. You have to hold your hands up. The only thing that's got my sort of dander up a bit is that I feel as if so much has been made in the aftermath of what sort of ban he should receive, the retrospective action. Many people, obviously from the red half of the city, are calling for some extreme measures other than a 3-game ban, which is sort of understandable in many ways, because you are outraged when you see a tackle like that puts out probably their best player, probably one of the best defenders in the world. Then you are going to be pretty sick about that. But it was undoubtedly a red card. I've no idea why he goes in that way. Normally goalkeepers sort of spread themselves in terms of jumping up and not going straight towards the player. So it was a very bizarre way he went about it, but I don't think it was intent. I just think it was stupid. I think he's been under pressure, Jordan Pickford, we know, all season long, both with England and Everton. If you look at how he moves his body and things like that, he's very rash in what he does and how he is at the moment in terms of his mental state. I think he's prone to making errors like that, and he's come out charging at Van Dijk, and I think it's fortunate that he sort of doesn't catch him with his boots. It's more the inner part of his leg where Van Dijk's legs are planted on the floor. If it's his boot, you could look at something worse than what we're seeing right now, which is probably a few months with an ACL injury. So definite red card. And again, you look at the officiating. How have they not spotted that? How have they not continued to look at that after finding out that Van Dijk was offside? So it's a little bit of a mess, both of those incidents, but it's largely down to the officials who are making these mistakes.
Yeah. Next question we have got is from, I'm going to try and say this, Kashthik Singh, again, sorry if I said that wrong, but given the current state of the top six clubs, especially after the injury, if Everton maintain their current form, they might pull a Leicester and win the league. What do you reckon about this? Because I know you don't like to get too excited. You like to be a bit realistic with it, but could they pull a Leicester?
I mean, you look at that, we've just played the best side in the league, the champions. They won the league last season easily in front of Manchester City. If they're the best the Premier League has to offer, Everton went toe-to-toe with them in the Merseyside derby. So there's plenty of reason to believe that we can have a season that defies expectations, and by that I probably think getting into the top 4. I don't think there's the squad depth if we're going to do a Leicester City. If you look at the players that stood up for them, they largely had a squad of players outside of their first 11 that went on and won that title, as incredible as it was. I'd love to dream big. I think the start we've had this season has been fantastic. The team's much transformed from last season. I just feel as if there's too much quality in the Premier League. If you look when Leicester won it, a lot of things aligned for them. There were a lot of teams in transition. If you remember Chelsea, Liverpool, loads of different teams were sort of changing managers or getting in new players. I think there's a little bit of that this season, but I just feel as if when you look at Manchester City getting going, Liverpool have suffered the blow with Van Dijk being missing for so long, probably most of the season. But I feel as if clubs like that nowadays can much more easily go out and recruit more in January and things like that. So I very much think Everton can have a good season. I think the top 4 is probably a realistic ambition. I don't quite think we can reach the level of winning it like Leicester did.
Fair enough. Well, thank you so much for answering those questions, and best of luck to Everton this season. I know how excited you must be, and I'm sure that we'll catch up again as the season continues.
Definitely.
Great to hear from Dave there. And before we finish, we have got the weekly forecast. Now, Matt's not here, so I'm going to give you two. Obviously, we've got the return of the Champions League, and I feel like with that injury, Liverpool are maybe going to struggle against Ajax, and I think Ajax will maybe get a 2-1 win. And of course, at the weekend, we have El Clasico, and I have got a feeling that Real Madrid are going to absolutely thrash Barcelona. I think it's going to be a 3-0 victory, and I am going with a Karim Benzema hat-trick. But I could be right, I could be wrong, who knows, we will find out next week. But thank you, as I said before, to everybody for getting their opinions in. Thank you to Dave from the Blue Room, and thanks to everybody for watching. Make sure you get involved in the comment section down below. Let us know what you thought of this week's TFW. Make sure you check out all the other content that we have got on OneFootball by clicking here or here. And until next time, I will see you guys later.